Hello and welcome to Below the Hospital. I'm your host, Garland-Rhea Grisby Sr., Sterile Processing Manager at Sutter Health CPMC. In this podcast, I ask what some people might call hard questions, but what I think are informative questions about the sterile processing profession. Today, though, we have something a little bit different. In the past, I've talked to industry experts, educators, and SPD professionals about their work and best practices. Today, as a special episode for this new season, I want to talk about what some folks call soft skills. Why talk about emotional intelligence on a podcast about sterile processing? The short answer, we all need it, we all use it, and employers definitely look for it while hiring or promoting folks into management roles. So today, I have the pleasure of speaking with DB Bedford. He is a workplace civility strategist at EI 365 who specializes in education on emotional intelligence and has written several books on the subject. DB, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, brother. Thank you for having me.
Also, to note, DB actually came out and spoke to some of my staff, and he did a training, about a 4-hour training for my staff, and they loved it. So again, thank you, DB. We appreciate you.
Oh, it's an honor. I was just, saying before we got on air, I just will not pass up an opportunity to have a conversation about emotional intelligence because it is, I think, the utmost, most important skill that anybody can develop, both personally and professionally.
Awesome. So let's get into it, right? So let's set the stage, right? Can you define emotional intelligence and tell me and our listeners why it's important?
Absolutely. So emotional intelligence, it has four angles, if you will. And so one is self-awareness, and not in just a general sense. Self-awareness is being consciously connected to your mood, your attitude, and your energy in all forms of communication. Then there's your ability to manage your reactions, meaning when the unexpected happens, how well can you manage your reaction to that? Then there's self, situational awareness, which is like what I like to call having emotional discernment, this ability to really know, should I engage with this now, later, or not at all? Like, should I respond in this moment, right? Maybe not right now, or probably not at all. And then there's relationship management, understanding that all relationships in your life require a level of management based on one's personality. And so when you're defining emotional intelligence, it boils down to self awareness, the ability to manage your reactions, understanding situational awareness, and understanding the importance of relationship management.
Wow, that was a lot to
Little
take in.
master class, little quick master class.
It was a lot to take in, but as you were breaking it down, that's day-to-day life, right?
Mhm.
Day-to-day life. So as a follow-up to that one, right? How did DB come to decide that emotional intelligence was something that you wanted to teach people about?
Well, it really came down to it because I was not always emotionally intelligent. I've made some pretty bad decisions uh, by allowing my emotions to overpower my decision making. And so, you know, when I reverse engineer my life and see like how it impacted right me by being in that strong emotional state, it was something I needed to do for self. And then once I start working on self, it just made me start observing the behaviors of others. And then I realized, oh, this is a phenomenon. I mean, when I look at all of people's poor decision making, it all boils down to them being in their feelings, right? And it's the one thing that's hidden in plain sight. People don't want to like to talk about it until they have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like, and especially, in the work environment, I just seen so many people make poor decisions, end up being disciplined, end up missing opportunities, promotional opportunities, because they don't factor in that the energy that they show up with and how they engage with people, they don't measure how impactful that is to their growth in their profession.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate explaining how you got involved into it. So let's bring it back into sterile processing, right?
Hmm.
How is all of this relevant to folks in my field, the folks that are have the duty to make sure that these instruments are processed and cleaned and sterile or high level disinfectant and ready for patient use? How does this pertain, or how's it relevant to folks in my field?
No, absolutely. I mean, sterile processing is like that's one of the most mission critical and I think underappreciated roles in healthcare. I mean, you guys are behind the scenes, and then everything you do, I mean, impacts safety, trust, and outcome for patients. So I feel like emotional intelligence is especially relevant in your field because a lot of y'all work happens under
Mm-hmm.
pressure, with tight protocols and often without like any recognition. Like people don't, you know what I mean? They don't recognize the value. And so I think emotional intelligence would helps you stay grounded,
Mm.
navigate that stress, knowing how to manage the tone and communicate clearly with the clinical teams and everybody involved, and especially when you're not always seen or heard. And so you're going to need that EI to continuously show up with that professionalism and that consistency, regardless of what's happening around
Absolutely. And that EI, that's emotional intelligence for the
you.
folks that like, what is EI?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, have you observed differences in job satisfaction and outcomes among professionals who develop good skills related to emotional intelligence?
Oh my goodness. Every single time. I mean, professionals who have a strong sense of emotional intelligence, they're not in the work environment just surviving. They thrive, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're managing the conflict. They're not afraid of it, right? They bounce back quicker from frustration. They allow calmness to be their superpower, and in sterile processing, that could look like just fewer errors under stress,
Mm-hmm.
stronger relationships with like the OR staff and just a more unified team culture. I mean, people with high emotional intelligence also know how to take feedback without folding under pressure. They're just more control of their mindset, and which this really just leads to higher job satisfaction and lower burnout. When you are surgical, pun intended, about how you process information and you can do it without taking it personal and you can understand the things that rubbed you the wrong way and understanding that if something is bothering you, that's a you thing and not a them thing, and you can recover quickly so you can stay in flow for the day. I mean, it just makes your day a whole lot smoother.
I appreciate you saying that because we do live in a world where we get feedback and we have to give feedback. And
Yeah,
sometimes we get so wrapped up in who's giving the feedback and we don't take it. So we feel, like you said, we feel a type of way about the feedback. And it could be something simple as explaining to somebody a mistake that they may have made, and you just explaining to them, just to be careful, or in the future. But again, how you receive it, like you said, it's a me thing. If I have an issue with something, it's a me thing. It's not the individual that gave me that feedback. So that's very important. I appreciate you bringing that out.
absolutely.
So now, speaking about that, like what are some skills that you have seen to be consistently important across job field?
I mean, the list is endless. I would say to piggyback on what we just said, if you can understand your emotional biases, your own emotional biases, is a skill that's definitely not talked about, meaning that you are mindful of projection bias because people don't realize that the only time they actually get bothered with someone else is because the little inner roommate inside of them, your inner thoughts, you're looking at them and going, "Why would you do that? Why did you put that there? Why did they say that? Why we got to do it like this?" You're questioning it, and it creates an inner conflict because what you're really saying is that's not how I would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you project that out and it gets rejected, because the person on the other end, that's how they do it, then you start to have an inner conflict and then you want to blame them. And most people don't understand that when you get frustrated about something, The question is not, or the position is not to be like, why did Garland do that? Why is he making us do this? That's not the question. The $1 million question is, why is this bothering me so much in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the real work begins. And you can do that by taking what we've framed or coined something we call the purposeful pause, which is being intentional about putting space in between your responses. So you always give yourself an opportunity not to let those emotions overpower your intelligence. So if you feel emotionally charged about something, I mean, you don't like it, you don't understand it, you don't agree with it, you're emotionally charged. Don't even act like you're not. You are. Don't just so let's just stop that. And so in that moment, it is a great opportunity to ask yourself that $1 million question. Why is this bothering me in the first place? And when you start working from the inside out, you're definitely going to show up better forward facing.
What you just said in them last few seconds reminded me of the quote that you said when you talked to me and my staff
Mm,
about emotional intelligence. And you had us think, and you said, when you feel strongly about something,
hmm
all logic goes out the window. And we sat there for a minute, and we had to take it in, but it started to make sense because you said, how many times have you felt strongly about something and someone else had a different opinion and you automatically didn't agree just because you felt strongly about your opinion and what you wanted? So, that stuck with me, and I use it and I think about it weekly. If you feel strongly about something, all logic goes out. So, yeah, that last what you just said just took
So,
me back there.
and so to frame that skill is understanding that when emotions are high, logic is the lowest. It's like a scale. So the stronger you feel about something, the higher the emotion. It's scientific that the logical side of you is at lowest. And so you always want to give the space, which is taking the purposeful pause, for that energy to come down a tad bit so that you can move back into your logical side of things because you want to communicate effectively and
Hmm.
you want to you whatever your objective or your outcome is, you want to get it without rubbing people the wrong way. You want to do it in flow, right?
Right.
We want to flow with the river, not fight with the rocks. And so
Mhm.
communication is currency. And so in a profession, well, personally and professionally, just as a good human, you should be intentional about your level of communication. And it starts about being aware that emotional intelligence is a real thing. And you should be like American Express. You should never leave home without it.
So you're talking about where it starts.
Mhm.
So what can folks do today to get started on improving their use of emotional intelligence?
Study it. I mean, it's out there. I mean, people talk about it, pick yourself up a good book, um, take trainings. Just don't assume that you have it. I think that's what I would say. Because, adults are weird. You know what I'm saying? We think that somehow our behavior, right, like we got it all figured out. But you know what I'm saying? Like we act like we got it all figured out. And I think that, I think the more people who understand that you are responsible for how you behave, no matter how you feel,
Mm.
right? You are responsible for how you behave, no matter how you feel, in all of your interactions, whether it's sterile processing or buying something in line at Walmart, wherever you are at, you are engaging with other humans and you want to move the needle in whatever that moment is of energy. So, how you show up with your tone, tact, and timing with your communication is irrelevant. So, I would say getting started is understanding that it's a real thing and it applies to you. Be intentional about taking a purposeful pause before you respond. Understanding projection bias. When you get upset and bothered with something, just know it's a you thing, not a them thing, right? Um, and just, and like I say, just flow with the river. Try not to fight with the rocks.
That was a good quote.
Don't
So, listeners, flow with the river, don't fight with the rocks.
fight with the rocks.
So, DB, we want to thank you for taking the time out your busy day. I know you're very busy, and in trying to get the world to understand emotional intelligence and trying to get everybody, on the same page and platform where we can communicate effectively and better, not only for others, but for ourselves. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat with us on the show.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to working with you again.
All right, folks, as usual, I hope this episode has been useful. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can find us at Below the Hospital on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Amy Array. Until then, see you when I see you.